Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching on me up, just bringing me out the dark.
If anyone watches this by any chance and they want to practice Danish, that would be great. You can leave a comment in the message. Doesn't matter when you watch this, I will still suck at Danish and need to practice. Yeah. Okay. Oh my god, this video is insanely random. I watched the show called, I'm kind of a big geek, called The Orville. And there's this planet. The Orville is kind of a sort of a homage to Star Trek: The Next Generation, but it doesn't have the right to say Star Trek, so it's a slight variation on it. But anyway, there's this main character, who's I think they're called Mucklins on the show, and they come from a planet that everybody, when they're born, from one sex to another, they get a sex change, and everybody on the planet is male. And everybody is supposed to be attracted to only males, and anybody who was born with the opposite sex gets a corrective surgery, so they also become a male, so it's a big planet of strong dudes, and if anybody is ever caught when they're away from the planet being attracted to someone of the female sex, they go to jail, and it's punishable by law. And not only do they punish you in the show, they also punish your entire family. So if you try to kill yourself, your family is brought to shame, or if you get caught doing some kind of having a different orientation than the one prescribed by the state, then you are punished, basically. And it was just, this episode was really, well, there's been a few episodes that have talked on the subject, but it really made me think of a short documentary that I've seen about the Middle East. I can't remember the name of the country, so I'll just put it on the screen, but where they were forcing people to have sex changes if they were caught having homosexual. They were given basically, if I recall correctly, they were given the choice between getting a sex change to become a woman or facing the death penalty. And so a lot of people who were gay, who were attracted to men in real life, and this was like 2018, 2017, this documentary, I believe, were being forced to be losing their penises and turning into vaginas so they could not get the death penalty, which is insane. So this episode just is very close to reality in the real world, and I just couldn't help but to make the obvious parallels, but it just it made me thinking. And there was in the show, of course it's fictional, it takes place in the future in a spaceship, there was one of the characters, the captain and the co-captain of the I can't of the spaceship of the main characters of I think it's called the Alliance. I can't remember correctly right now. Like I said, I didn't sleep last night, but yeah, the captain and the co-captain were saying, how long will this they have they're allies with the Monklins, but they have nothing. The values are very different, and that also made me think of in the real world. Certain countries like the US and Saudi Arabia, which have very different, technically, core values, are allies for military purposes or money or oil and so on. So this episode was, science fiction has always been a way to talk about things that are actually happening in the world, but it's easier to swallow if you talk about it through a lens of a fiction, of course. Star Trek has done this since the original series, with the man that had the white on one side of his face and the black on the other side of the face, and the other side of the planet had the opposite colors on their face, and they almost destroyed their entire planet, and so on. And they've tackled these similar subjects on the Next Generation in the past. But I just find it interesting that we live in a polarized world. People are going more to the extremes, the right or the left. Fascism is growing against migrants and immigrations more and more in the United States or many parts of Europe, including Denmark, where I live. A lot of racism towards Muslims and African people as well, and it's just really sad to see that people are just going on social media and seeing, watching videos or looking at links that agree with their values, and people who are on the opposite side are completely seeing what they want to see, and no one is actually finding the middle ground. And that's just kind of the world we are living in right now. I don't have a solution, but it's just an observation. I'm going, like I said earlier, on a trip for work, and one of the things I also wanted to mention in this video is how everything is so close, but people aren't used compared to Canada, because Canada is just a fucking giant country with a lot of space, and you can drive for 24 hours to get to another province, and people are used to driving. If you say I'm going somewhere close, it's 5 hours. And here in Denmark, I would be on the other side of the country. So it's a cultural difference for sure. If people drive for an hour, they take like 4 breaks, because for them it's considered long distance. You adapt to the reality that is yours. You can drive 24 hours here and be in a completely different country with a different language and different culture and different climate even. And it's amazing. I think this is something that's wonderful, and compared to, of course, you could drive to South America from Canada, where I come from, but the closest country is the United States, and it's still a very big country to travel through. And North America has a lot of similar streets, a lot of similar things. Of course, there's different nature and mountains and lakes and so on, but definitely a lot of the same street signs and sort of square, blocks of rectangle housing and everything kind of looks the same. Here, the differences are amazing, and it's something that some people who live here take for granted. Others travel and definitely see, but it's one of the things that I'm really glad to be here for, and I hope that when things are more stable, I'll be able to experience this and see more of Europe. So I look forward to that. One of the things that I remember when I went to Turkey last year. One thing that I really miss is that they had water spraying out of the toilet in every toilet in Turkey, even if you were in a house or even a shopping mall or a restaurant. Didn't matter. There was always this knob that you could grab, and you could direct the nozzle to hit and completely wash your anus. It was amazing. I think the toilet paper by itself is not good enough. I think that if you stepped in dog shit, I'm stealing this from a comedy show on Netflix, Patriot Act, but he basically said something like, it was a lot funnier than me, but basically, if you stepped on a pile of shit and then someone gave you, toilet paper to wipe it off, you wouldn't be satisfied with that after walking in with your shoes into your house. But for some reason, when it comes to toilets, we're perfectly fine with toilet paper. Of course, there's the wet naps that are really wasteful and clog up all the drainage in the cities now. But still, it's nothing compared to actually water and actually cleaning down there. Like in many parts of the world, the people, it's just the norm, and it is not in parts of Europe and in Quebec or Canada where I come from. So, yeah. One of the things that there was a shortage of back home in Canada was doctors. Half the people in Canada are on a waiting list to have a family doctor. So you have to go to these clinics where you can see a doctor, which is a general doctor, which is not your doctor, because there's not enough doctors to go around for everybody to be on the list. I had a family doctor growing up. He eventually went to the private sector. And then I moved to Montreal when I was in my 20s, and then I didn't have a doctor for many years, and then ended up going to clinic after clinic after clinic to see if any doctors were still accepting patients. And I was lucky that I actually found a doctor. But then after a few years, my doctor in Montreal ended up moving to a different clinic, and because she was working for a private clinic, she didn't take her patients with her. I don't know if she left on good terms or bad terms with the private clinic, but that's what happened. Now here in Copenhagen, Denmark, everybody is fortunate enough to have a doctor. You're assigned an automatic doctor, and if you're not happy with that doctor, you can pay a fee. And switch your doctor. So what happened was basically in Denmark I was able to well, actually my wife had a doctor for many years, but she wasn't satisfied with that doctor. And then she found a doctor that was closer to the house, and we both decided to sign up for that doctor. And what happened was that doctor sent us a letter, or the healthcare provider did, and they basically told us that they had moved very far away from the city. And I guess now if we think that doctor is too far, we'll have to pay a fee to change doctors again, which is it's an interesting system. It's definitely better. I've been to the emergency room, and it's definitely a lot quicker than it was in Canada. You could wait 5 or 8 hours in Canada. Here, my experience was only waiting 2 hours when it was actually very busy, but much better than. I don't know what the norm is here, to be honest, but I do know that it was definitely faster in Canada. I once waited in Montreal. This is not a joke. People will think I'm exaggerating. I waited 24 hours in the hospital. It was a small hospital. It was in Montreal, and I had really hurt my ankle really badly, actually accidentally during a protest. And I had already gone to the doctor, and it hurt so much to walk that I decided to just wait. Ended up staying there for a very long time. So definitely a better system when it comes to healthcare.